Ever find yourself kind of stuck, in another relationship going, wait, is this me? Like when things go south and you see, a pattern,
Yeah,
you're so not alone.
definitely not. It's such a common question.
Totally. So today, we're diving deep, right, into this whole toxic relationship thing. Like, could we be the common denominator?
It's a question a lot of people resonate with, and it's way more than just pointing fingers.
Right. Like, it's not about blame. It's more about,
Understanding.
yes, gaining clarity. Today, we're going to dig into some seriously thought-provoking stories of different angles on this.
What I find super interesting is how these sources, they emphasize understanding our own patterns instead of just blaming.
Because being self-aware is, like, key, right?
Huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so let's jump into this first argument. It's a bold one. Yes, it might be you, but that's okay.
Whoa.
Right. Now, before you hit that stop button,
Please don't.
this isn't about beating ourselves up. It's more about, might have some patterns here, which is actually kind of good.
It's a good thing.
Because once you see the pattern,
You can change it.
Like-
Like those blind spots, Suddenly you see them.
totally.
And this one story, Sarah's story, really shows this. She kept ending up with emotionally unavailable partners. Heartbreak City.
Oof, yeah. I think we've all been there in some form. Wanting love, but maybe not always choosing the best people for it.
It's that thing where you're drawn to what's familiar, even if it's not good for you. The source talked about attachment theory, which I find fascinating.
Oh, tell me more about that.
So basically, it suggests that our earliest relationships, especially with parents when we're kids, they can kind of create these almost like blueprints in our subconscious for how we connect with people as adults.
So we're drawn to what we know, even if what we know isn't so healthy.
Exactly. And that's where setting boundaries comes in.
Ooh, boundaries. That's a good one.
It's huge EE because it's not about trying harder to force the wrong relationship to work. It's about, okay, what do I need? What's my worth?
Less about fixing them, more about what do I need to feel good in this?
Exactly. And that takes us to Jenny's story. She was dating this guy, super controlling, always pushing her boundaries, but she kept telling herself she was just, compromising for the relationship.
Oh, that's a tricky one, because compromise is important, but not at the cost of, you.
Exactly. And this source talked about how easy it is, especially if you're a people pleaser, to fall into that trap. You think you're being nice or avoiding conflict.
But you're sacrificing your needs.
Yes. And that helps no one. So knowing your needs is super important. What makes you feel loved, respected?
Oh, okay. So we've got recognizing patterns, setting boundaries, but it's important to say, not every relationship struggle is our fault.
Right.
Sometimes it really is them.
Totally. And even this "it might be you" argument acknowledges that. It's not about taking all the blame. It's a two-way street. And sometimes you just encounter someone who's not capable of a healthy relationship no matter what you do.
It reminds me of Lily's story. She had a bunch of relationships with emotionally unavailable partners, but when she looked at each one, the reasons were different each time.
Yeah, totally. Like one person might have had their own baggage, another one wasn't ready for commitment, and another might have just been, to be blunt, not a good person.
Oh, yeah.
It's about realizing each relationship is unique. You might see patterns in your choices, but you can't overgeneralize about them.
So how do we balance that? Looking inward, but also knowing when to walk away.
Ooh, that's where it gets really good. And it leads us to the counter-argument. Hold up, it's not that simple.
So we've talked about how it's good to recognize our own patterns, but sometimes it really is the other person, right? Their
Right.
behavior. How do we know if it's actually toxic? What should we be looking for?
That's what's so important because toxic behavior, it can be sneaky, especially at first.
Right. Like in Emily's story. Remember, her partner, the one who was so controlling, isolating her from her friends and family.
Huge red flag.
Major.
And the thing is, that kind of controlling behavior, that's abuse. Plain and simple.
It's easy to say from the outside, just leave.
Yeah.
But these sources really point out manipulators. They know what they're
But
doing.
they're good at it. It's like their specialty. They can be so charming at first, you feel amazing.
Totally.
And then, slowly, they start to control. Little things at first, hard to even notice until it's too late.
That's so much like what happened to Tom.
Right.
He was smitten at first, and then his partner's like, you can't wear that. Don't hang out with him.
Textbook.
Yeah.
The source actually uses this term, coercive control. Powerful way to think about it.
It's not about being naive then, or blaming yourself for missing the signs. It's that these tactics are designed to be subtle.
Totally. It's like they chip away at your self-worth without you even realizing.
Until you don't trust your own instincts.
Exactly. That's why it's huge to educate yourself about this. Knowledge is power, for real.
And it's not just those big flashing red flags, right? It's the little things that need to control everything. The gaslighting.
Oh, yeah. Making you doubt your own sanity.
Right.
Trust your gut. If something feels off, even if you can't explain why, pay attention to that.
So important.
Yeah.
This whole thing, it makes me think about Anna's story so much. Stuck for years in that emotionally unavailable relationship, always questioning her own worth.
It's heartbreaking how often that happens. We internalize that message, I'm not enough. Like, it's our fault they can't show up.
But what I love about this source is, it says straight up, leaving a toxic situation, that's not failure. That's strength.
100%. It takes guts to walk away, even if it's familiar, even if it's scary.
This whole conversation, it shows how complex relationships are.
Yeah.
We've got recognizing our own stuff, setting boundaries, but also seeing clearly when it's them. How do we put those two things together?
That's where the last part of this deep dive gets really interesting. It's not about one or the other, it's finding the balance.
Because we can take responsibility for our part without taking the blame for someone else being toxic, right?
Right. We can't control them. We can control us.
And that includes choosing to walk away.
Sometimes that's the strongest move you can make.
So we're learning to take responsibility for our part, not blaming anyone else for being toxic. How do we move forward from there?
I think it's about realizing you always have a choice. You can stay stuck in those unhealthy patterns, or you can choose to break free and have these healthier relationships, happier relationships.
That's like level 10 of personal growth, right?
Yeah.
But this source had this idea, learning to let go. More than blaming yourself, what does letting go even mean when we're talking about this?
Letting go, it's kind of different for everyone, right? But I think it boiled down to this letting go of needing to be right. You're not trying to fix the other person or even control things anymore. It's more like sometimes the healthiest thing is just walking away.
And that takes self-compassion for sure, because it's so easy to get stuck in the shoulda, coulda, wouldas.
Oh, tell me about it. It's like we're all works in progress, right? Especially with relationships. We mess up, we learn. The thing is being kind to ourselves through it all.
There was the other part that really stuck with me where the source talks about not letting being hurt define you. What do you think that means with these toxic relationships?
I think it gets at how resilient people are. Like, you can go through really tough stuff, awful breakups, betrayals even, but you come out the other side stronger. You choose to believe you're worthy of love, healthy connections, even if you haven't found them yet.
I love that. Reclaiming your own story, not letting those past relationships be the whole picture.
Exactly. Because just because you've made mistakes or met some toxic people doesn't mean you're going to keep repeating it. It's about, okay, what I learned, and then making different choices for your future.
So as we're kind of wrapping up this deep dive, what are some big takeaways for people listening? Things they can use in their own lives.
First thing, you are so not alone. Toxic relationships are everywhere, sadly, but knowing what's up, that's power. When you understand how it all works, you can spot the red flags. And taking care of yourself, that's got to come first.
Yeah, it's a journey, not a quick fix. There's no magic formula. But when you work on being self-aware, setting those good boundaries and being kind to yourself, that's how you build better relationships all around.
And don't be afraid to get some help either. Therapy can be huge for figuring out these patterns and learning those healthier skills. Asking for help, that's not weakness. That's you being smart.
It's like investing in yourself, investing in your own happiness.
Yeah.
And on that note, that's a wrap on this deep dive. Until next time, everyone keep asking the tough questions, keep learning and growing, and as always, keep diving deep.